Hello and welcome to World News on the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Renewed fighting near Uvira raises tensions in eastern DR Congo. Fear and uncertainty sweep Venezuela after US operation targets President Maduro. Celebrations in South Florida as Venezuelans react to Maduro's capture. Dozens missing after a boat carrying more than 200 migrants capsizes off Gambia. Pope voices concern over US raid in Venezuela, calls for peace and sovereignty. Maduro to appear in US court as Trump warns of further military strikes. Trump threatens Colombia's Petro, says Cuba ready to fall. And now the news in full. Fresh clashes have erupted around the strategic city of Uvira in South Kivu Province, Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo (DRC), intensifying an already volatile conflict and forcing civilians to flee as insecurity deepens. The latest violence broke out on Sunday with armed engagements reported about 10 kilometers south of Uvira. Government troops supported by local Wazalendo fighters clashed with AFC M23 rebel forces allied with the Twirwaneho group. United Nations reports allege that rebels continue to receive backing from neighboring Rwanda through Kigali, though Kigali denies intervention. Residents in and around Uvira describe intense gunfire and explosions, with firefights at times audible even outside the city. The violence has driven families from their homes towards safer zones within Uvira, where many are now taking shelter in churches and public buildings, often with limited access to clean water, sanitation, and essential services. Local civil society groups have called on all parties to honor existing ceasefire agreements and implement an immediate truce, warning that the humanitarian situation is deteriorating rapidly. They stress the need to prioritize civilian protection and enable the safe return of displaced populations. Venezuela is facing widespread fear, confusion, and uncertainty after US forces carried out a dramatic military operation early January 3, 2026 that captured President Nicolás Maduro and transported him out of the country, triggering chaos in Caracas and beyond. Residents in the capital and other major cities reported panic buying, blocked streets, and disrupted daily life as rumors spread and information remained scarce. Many Venezuelans describe a sense of dread about what comes next, even as the official announcement reverberated across the nation. Venezuelans woke up scared, one Caracas resident said, reflecting widespread anxiety over the sudden escalation. The Maduro government condemned the US operation as an imperialistic attack, with supporters taking to social media and neighborhoods to decry foreign intervention and challenge Washington's motive. Opposition within the country remains mixed, with some citizens angered by foreign involvement, while others express cautious hope for change. US President Donald Trump confirmed that Maduro and his wife were in US custody and indicated that Washington would run Venezuela temporarily until a transition could be managed. That declaration has amplified concerns about sovereignty and the nation's future political and economic direction amid the power vacuum. In contrast to the climate in Venezuela, Venezuelan exiles and members of the diaspora in South Florida erupted in celebration following news of Nicolás Maduro's capture by US forces. Early on January 3, 2026, crowds gathered outside the popular El Arepazo restaurant in Doral, a long-time cultural hub for Venezuelan Americans, chanting liberty and waving Venezuelan flags. Participants described a mixture of joy and relief emotions, years in the making for many who fled political repression, hyperinflation, and economic collapse. Some said they hope the development brings a chance for democracy, national renewal, and eventual reunification with families left behind. While the scene was predominantly celebratory, there was also a clear underlying current of mixed emotions. Many attendees spoke about long-standing fears about their homeland and uncertainty about what US control might mean for Venezuela's future, especially after announcements that Washington will temporarily administer the country and utilize its oil resources. The celebrations in South Florida reflect the deep emotional stakes for the Venezuelan community abroad, hope tempered by caution as they watched historic events unfold from thousands of kilometers away. Pope Leo XIV has publicly expressed deep concern over the recent United States military operation in Venezuela, urging respect for national sovereignty, peaceful resolution, and protection of civilian rights as the South American nation faces escalating tensions. Delivering his message during the Angelus prayer at the Vatican, the pontiff said he was following developments with a heart full of concern, stressing that the well-being of the Venezuelan people must prevail over all considerations. He called for an immediate end to violence, respect for the rule of law enshrined in Venezuela's constitution, and protection of human and civil rights for all citizens. The Pope also highlighted the importance of upholding Venezuela's sovereignty and constitutional order, urging that any course of action lead to justice and peace and not to further instability.
We will now go on a short break, and when we come back, the news will continue. Stay tuned.
The Papyrus Global, we don't just cover events, we create cinematic experiences. From red carpets to birthdays, gala dinners, and your fairy tale weddings, we bring your moments to life with high-tech precision. Our gadgets are smarter, our lenses sharper, and our team simply world-class. Trust the Papyrus Global to tell your story in the boldest, brightest way possible.
Welcome back, and now the news will continue.
A crowded migrant vessel en route to Europe capsized off the coast of the Gambia on New Year's Eve, leaving at least 7 confirmed dead and dozens missing, officials say. The incident underscores the deadly risk of irregular Atlantic crossings from West Africa towards the Canary Lands. Gambian authorities reported that the boat carrying over 200 people overturned near Jinak village in the North Bank region late on December 31, 2025. So far, at least 102 survivors have been rescued and several are receiving urgent medical care, with search and rescue operations ongoing. President Adama Barrow activated the National Emergency Response Plan, deploying naval and community resources to assist survivors and recover missing passengers. He described the tragedy as a painful reminder of the dangerous and life-threatening nature of irregular migration, urging strengthened efforts to prevent such risky journeys. The Atlantic migration route from West Africa to Europe remains one of the world's deadliest, with overcrowded wooden boats, long sea distances, and rough conditions frequently resulting in accidents. Thousands of migrants continue to risk their lives in pursuit of economic opportunities abroad, often with fatal consequences. In a dramatic escalation of U.S. involvement in Venezuela, former President Nicolás Maduro and his wife Celia Flores are set to appear in a federal court in New York on drug-related charges after being captured by U.S. forces during a controversial military operation in Caracas. The unusual legal and geopolitical situation has triggered intense global attention. U.S. President Donald Trump signaled that the United States might authorize further military action if Venezuelan authorities fail to cooperate on priorities like oil sector reform and drug trafficking control. Trump also suggested potential intervention in Colombia and Mexico under similar circumstances. The raid, which U.S. officials describe as rooted in long-standing criminal indictments, has provoked international criticism over its legality and implications for Venezuelan sovereignty. Maduro's detention and transport to the U.S. mark a highly controversial moment in Western Hemisphere geopolitics. In Caracas, acting President Delcy Rodriguez has been named interim leader and indicated a willingness to collaborate with Washington, though she and Maduro's supporters previously condemned the operation as violating international law. U.S. President Donald Trump has escalated tensions in Latin America by issuing sharp warnings to Colombian President Gustavo Petro and commenting on the precarious situation in Cuba following a controversial U.S. military operation that captured Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro. Speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One, Trump described both Venezuela and Colombia as very sick and accused Petro of overseeing a government linked to cocaine production and trafficking into the United States. He said a military operation in Colombia sounds good to me, effectively signaling that further U.S. pressure and potentially intervention could be considered if his concerns about drug trafficking and governance are not addressed. Trump also suggested that Cuba's government could be on the brink of collapse, saying the island nation, historically dependent on Venezuelan oil, is ready to fall as Washington tightens pressure on Havana's economic links and support structures. Trump's remark underlined a broader and more confrontational U.S. posture towards key regional governments in the wake of the Venezuelan crisis. And that's all we have on World News of the Papyrus Global TV. I am Christiana Babayo. Thanks for joining us.